Krishnamurti, in dialogue with Dr. Allan W. Anderson.
What we said previously, wasn't it that there must be a quality of freedom from the known? Otherwise it will be mere, the known is merely the repetitive of the past, the
Yes.
tradition, the image and so on. The past, surely, sir, is the observer. Past is the accumulated knowledge as the me and the we, they and us. Is this, the observer is put together by thought as the past. Thought is the past. Thought is never free. Thought is never new. Because thought is the response of the past as knowledge, as experience, as memory.
Yes, I follow that.
And the observer, when he observes, is observing with the memories, experiences, knowledge, hurts, despairs, hope, all that, with all that background, he looks at the observed. So the observer then becomes separate from the observed. Is the observer different from the observed, which we'll go into present later on.
Yes, right.
That leads to all kinds of other things. So, when we are talking of freedom from the known, we are talking about the freedom from the observer.
The observer, yes.
And the observer is the tradition, the past, the conditioned mind that looks at things, looks at itself, looks at the world, looks at me and so on. So the observer is always dividing. The observer is the past, and therefore it cannot observe wholly. I is the whole structure of what has been. The remembrances, the memories, the hurts, the various demands, all that is put together in the world, the I, who is the observer. And therefore, division. The observer and the observed. The observer who thinks he's a Christian and observes a non-Christian or a communist, is this division, this attitude of mind which observes with a conditioned responses, with memories and so on. So that is the known.
I see.
I mean, I think that is logically so.
Oh no, it follows precisely from what you said. Yes.
So, we are asking, can the mind or the whole structure, can the mind be free from the known? Otherwise, the repetitious action, repetitious attitudes, repetitious ideologies will go on, modified, changed, but it is in the same direction. So,
No, do go ahead. I was just going to say something, but I think I'll let it wait until you finish what you've said.
So, what is this freedom from the known? I think that's very important to understand, because any creative action, I'm using the word creative in its original sense, not in the sense creative writing, creative bakery, creative essay, creative pictures. I'm not talking in those sense. in the deeper sense of that word, creation means something totally new being born. I mean, it's not creative, it's merely repetitive, modified, changed, not the past. So, unless there is a freedom from the known, there is no creative action at all. Which is, freedom implies not the negation of the known, but the understanding of the known, and that understanding brings about an intelligence which is the very essence of freedom.
Right. I'd like to make sure that I've understood your use of this word creative.
Yes, that's why
seems to me very, very important.
Yes.
People who use the word creative in the sense that you described, creative this, that, and the other.
That's a horror. That is a dreadful way of using that word.
Because what the issue is of their activity is something merely novel.
Novel. That's right.
Not radically new,
No.
but novel.
It's like creative writing, teaching creative writing. It's so absurd.
Exactly. Yes. Now I do, I think, grasp precisely the distinction that you've made. And I must say I fully agree with that.
Unless you feel new, you can't create anything new.
That's right. And the person who imagines that he is creative in this other sense that we pointed to is a person whose reference for his activity is this observer that we mentioned, that is tied to the past.
Yes, that's right.
So even if something does appear that is really extraordinarily novel, merely novel, but still extraordinarily novel, they're kidding themselves.
The novel is not the creative.
Exactly.
The novel is just,
Right. And today, especially, it seems to me in our culture, we've become hysterical about this, because in order to be creative, one simply must rack his brains in order to produce something which in itself is bizarre enough to get attention.
That's all. Attention, success.
Yes. It has to be novel to the degree that I feel knocked on the head by it.
Yeah, eccentric and all the rest.
Exactly. But if that tension is increased, then with each succeeding generation, the person is put to tremendous stress, not to repeat the past, which he can't help repeating.
Repeating quite. That's why I say freedom is one thing and knowledge is another. We must relate the two and see whether the mind can be free from knowledge. We won't go into it now. This is real meditation for me. You follow, sir?
Yes, I do.
Because when we talk about meditation, we'll go into it. But whether the brain can record and be free not to record. Brain to record and operate when necessary in the recording, in memory, in knowledge, and be free to observe without the observer.
Yes, I see. That distinction seems to me absolutely necessary. Otherwise, it wouldn't be intelligible. No, yes.
So, knowledge is necessary to act, in the sense, my going home from here to the place I live. I must have knowledge. I must have knowledge to speak English. I must have knowledge to write a letter and so on. Everything. The knowledge as function is mechanical function is necessary. Now if I use that knowledge in my relationship with you, another human being, I am bringing about a barrier, a division between you and me, who is the observer. If I'm making
Right.
myself clear.
And
That
I'm
is-
the observed in that
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
Right, in that context.
That is, knowledge in relationship, in human relationship, is destructive. That is, knowledge which is the tradition, the memory, the image, which the mind has built about you when we are related together, that knowledge is separated and therefore creates conflict in that relationship. As we said earlier, where there is division, there must be conflict. Division between India and Pakistan, India and America, Russia and all that, this divisive activity, politically, religiously, economically, socially, in every way, must inevitably bring conflict and therefore violence. That's obvious.
Exactly.
Now, when in relationship, in human relationship, knowledge comes between, then in that relationship there must be conflict. Between a wife, husband and wife, boy and girl, wherever there is the operation of as the observer who is the past, who is knowledge, in that activity there is division and therefore conflict in relationship.
So now the question that comes up next is the one of freedom from being subject
Yeah,
to this repetitive round.
that's right.
Good, good.
Now, is that possible? You follow, sir? It's an immense question because human beings live in relationship.
Yes.
There is no life without relationship. Life means to be related.
Exactly.
People who retire into a monastery and all that, they are still related. However much they might like to think they are alone, they are actually related.
Yes.
Related to the past,
Oh yes, very much so.
to their Savior, to their Christ, to their Buddha, to their, you follow all that, they are related to the past.
And their rule.
And the rules, everything.
Yes.
They live in the past. And therefore, they are the most destructive people. Because they're not creative in the deeper sense of that word.
No, and they also, insofar as they are involved in this confusion that you've been talking about,
Yes.
are not even producing anything novel.
No,
Not that that means anything,
No,
but,
no,
but
no.
perhaps that would rather radically...
But the novel would be for a man who is talkative to enter a monastery where they don't talk.
Yes.
That's a novel to him, and he said that's a miracle.
Right.
So, our problem then is, what place has knowledge in human relationship?
Yes.
That's
That's the problem.
That's
now.
one problem.
Yes.
Because relationship with human beings is the highest importance, obviously. Because out of that relationship we create the society in which we live. Out of that relationship all our existence comes. Everyday activity is my life, is our
everything.
life.
Yes, precisely.
Whether I go to the office, factory, or drive a bus, or whatever it is life, living. So knowledge and freedom, they must both exist together. Not freedom and knowledge. It's the harmony between the two. The two operating all the time in relationship.
The knowledge and
Freedom.
the freedom in harmony.
In harmony, it's like they can never be divorced. If I want to live with you in great harmony, which is love,
Yes.
which when we will discuss that later on, there must be this absolute sense of freedom from you, not dependency and so on, so on, so on. This absolute sense of freedom and operating at the same time in the field of knowledge. Religion, at least the meaning of that word is to gather together to be attentive. That is the true meaning of that word, religion. I've looked up where it is.
Oh, yes, I agree.
Gathering together all energy to be attentive. Yeah,
Yes.
to be attentive. Otherwise, it's not religion. Religion is just all the thing. Is so. And we'll discuss that when we come to it. So, freedom means this sense of complete austerity and sense of total negation of the observer.
Exactly.
Out of that comes austerity, everything else. We'll go into that later on.
But
So-
austerity in itself doesn't produce it.
And now,
So we've turned that upside down. Right. Yes.
Austere means really, the word itself means ash,
Right. Yes.
dry, brittle. But the austerity of which we're talking about is something entirely different. It is
Yes.
It is the freedom that brings about this austerity inwardly. Now, so, freedom in action in the field of knowledge and in the field of human relationship, because that is the highest importance, human relationship.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, yes. Particularly if I am the world and the world is me.
Obviously.
Yes.
So, what place has knowledge in human relationship? Knowledge in the sense, past experience, tradition, image.
Yes.
What has the observer, who is the observer, all that is the observer, what place has the observer in human relationship?
What place has knowledge, on the one hand? What place has the observer?
And observer is the knowledge.
Is the knowledge.
Yeah.
But there's the possibility of seeing knowledge, not simply negatively, but in coordination, in true creative relationship.
I put it,
Right.
I said that.
Exactly.
That is, I am related to you. Let's, to make it very simple. I'm related to you. You're my brother or whatever it is, husband, wife, whatever it is. And what place has knowledge as the observer, which is the past, and knowledge is the past, what place has that in our relationship?
If our relationship is creative, in
And
the
it
sense...
is not. Not if. We must take it actually as it is. I am related to you. I am married to you. I am your wife or husband, whatever it is. Now, what is the actuality in that relationship? The actuality, not theoretical actuality, but the actuality is that I am separate from you.
The actuality must be that we are not divided.
But we are. I may call you my husband, my wife, but I am concerned with my success. I'm concerned with my money. I'm concerned with my ambitions, my envy. I'm full of me.
Yes, I see that, but I want to make sure now that we haven't reached a confusion here.
Yes, we have.
When I say that the actuality is that we are not separate, I don't mean to say that at the phenomenal level that a dysfunction is occurring. I'm fully aware of that. But if we're going to say that the world is me and I am the world...
We say it theoretically, we don't feel it.
Yeah, precisely. But if that is the case, that the world is me and I am the world,
so
and this is actual. This is actual.
This is actual only when I have no division in myself.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I have a division.
If I have a division,
and therefore
then there's no relationship between one and the other.
Therefore, one accepts the idea that the world is me and the world, me is the world. That's just an idea. Look, sir.
Yes, I understand. But if and when it happens...
No, wait, just see what takes place in my mind. What takes in mind. I make a statement of that kind. The world is you and you are the world. Mm-hmm. The mind then translates it into an idea, mm-hmm. into a concept, and tries to live according to that concept.
Exactly.
It has abstracted from reality.
Mm-hmm. This is knowledge in the destructive sense.
That is what's going on. I won't call it destructive or positive. This is what's going on.
Well, let's say the issue from it is hell.
Yes, yes. So, in my relationship with you, what place has knowledge, the past, the image, which is the observer, all that is the observer, what place has the observer in our relationship? Actually, the observer is the factor of division.
Right.
And therefore, the conflict between you and me. This is what is going on in the world, every day.
Then one would have to say, it seems to me, following the conversation, point by point, that the place of this observer, understood as you've pointed it out, is the point of this relationship.
Is the point where there is really actually no relationship at all. I may sleep with my wife or you may sleep and so on, but actually there is no relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have my own pursuits, my own ambitions, my own all the idiosyncrasies and so on, and she has hers. So we are always separate.
Uh-huh.
And therefore always in battle with each other.
Uh-huh.
Which means the observer as the past is the factor of division.
Yes.
As long as there is the observer,
yes,
there must be conflict in the relationship.
Yes, I follow that.
Wait.
Yes.
No, see what happens. I make a statement of that kind. Someone will translate into an idea, into a concept, and say, how am I to live that concept?
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, he doesn't observe himself as the observer.
That's right. That's right. He is the observer looking out there, making a distinction between himself
and the statement.
Right. Making a division.
Now, so, has the observer any place at all in the relationship? I say no. The moment he comes into existence in relationship, there is no relationship.
The relationship is not.
Is not. That's
it's
right.
not something that is in this relationship.
Yes, that's right.
We're talking about something that in fact does not even exist.
Therefore, we have to go into the question why human beings in their relationship with other human beings are so violent. Because that's spreading throughout the world. I was told the other day in India, a mother came to see me, very Brahmanical family and very cultured and all the rest of it. Her son, who is 6, when she asked him to do something, he took up a stick and began to hit her. A thing unknown. You follow, sir?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the idea that you should hit your mother is traditionally something incredible. And this boy did it. And I said, see what is the fact. We went into it, she understood, so on. So, to understand violence, one has to understand division.
The division was already there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would not have picked up the stick.
Division between nations, you follow, sir?
Mm-hmm.
This race from armaments is one of the factors of violence, which is, I'm calling myself American and others calling himself Russian or Hindu or whatever it is. This division is the factor of real violence and hatred. If a mind, when a mind sees that, he cuts away all division in himself. He is no longer a Hindu, American, Russian, he is a human being with his problems, which is then he's trying to solve, not in terms of India or in America or Russia. So that's, so we come to the point, can the mind be free in the relationship, which means orderly,
Yes.
not chaotic,
No, no.
orderly?
It has to be, otherwise
Okay,
you couldn't use the word relation.
No, no.
Yes.
So can the mind be free of that? Free of the observer. So when
If not, there's no hope.
that's the whole point.
If not, we've had it.
Yeah. And all the escapes and going off into other religions, doing all kinds of tricks and no meaning. Now, this demands a great deal of perception, insight,
Yes.
into the fact of your life, how one lives one's life. After all, philosophy means the love of truth, love of wisdom, not the love of some abstraction.
Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 no. Wisdom is supremely practical.
Practical. Therefore, here it is. That is, can a human being live in relationship, in freedom, and yet operate in the field of knowledge?
And yet operate in the field of knowledge. Yes.
And be absolutely orderly. Otherwise it's not freedom. Because order means virtue,
Yes. Yes.
which doesn't exist in the world at the present time. There is no sense of virtue in anything. They will repeat, virtue is a creative thing, is a living thing, is a moving thing. In human relationship as it exists now, we are looking at that, what actually is. In that human relationship, there is conflict. Sexual violence and so on, so on, so on. Every kind of violence. Now, can man live at total peace? Otherwise it's not creative. In human relationship, because that is the basis of all life. You know? From childhood, I never thought I was a Hindu.
I see.
I never thought when I was educated in England and all the rest of it that I was European. I never was caught in that trap. I don't know how it happened. I was never caught in the trap.
When you were quite little then,
Yes.
and your playmates said to you, well, now look, you're a Hindu. What did you say?
I probably put on Hinduism, all the
Yeah.
trappings of Brahman tradition. I was, but it never penetrated deeply.
As we say in the vernacular, it never got to you.
You never got to me, that's right.
I see. That's very remarkable. That is extraordinary. The vast number of people in the world seem to have been got to with
Yes.
respect to this.
That's why I think, you see, propaganda has become the means of change.
Yes, yes.
Propaganda is not truth. Repetition is not truth.
It's a form of violence, too.
That just
Yes.
so. A mind that says, that merely observes, doesn't react to what it observes according to its conditioning, which means there is no observer at any time. Therefore, no division. It happened to me. I don't know how it happened, but it's happened. And in observing all this, I see in every human relationship, every kind of human relationship, there is this division and therefore violence. And to me, the very essence of non-relationship is the factor of me and you. So that brings us to the point, sir, doesn't it? Can the human mind, which has evolved in separation,
Yes.
in fragmentations,
This is where evolution is.
yeah,
Yes.
can such a mind transform, undergo a regeneration which is not produced by influence, by propaganda, by threat and punishment? Because if it changes because it's going to get a reward, then
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed.
No.
So that is one of the fundamental things which one has to ask and answer it in action, not in words.
In action.
Action.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Which is, my mind, the human mind, has evolved in contradiction, in duality. The me and the not me. Has evolved in this traditional cleavage, division, fragmentation. Now, can that mind observe this fact, observe, without the observer, and only then there is a regeneration. As long as there is an observer observing this, then there is a conflict. I don't know if I make it.
Yes, you do. You make yourself very clear on two levels. On the level of discourse alone, which I know is not your major concern, on the level of discourse alone, it necessarily follows that it must be the case that this possibility exists. Otherwise, we would be talking nonsense. But then the agony of the situation at large that we have been describing is simply that whether this can be done or no never occurs to a person, and in the absence of it even occurring, the repetition is going to continue indefinitely, and things are going to get worse and worse.
So the difficulty is most people won't even listen.
I'm sighing. I know that.
Won't listen. If they do listen, they listen with their conclusions. If I'm a communist, I will listen to you up to a point. After that, I won't listen to you. And if I am slightly demented, I will listen to you and translate what I hear according to my
Dementia. Exactly.
So one has to be extraordinarily serious to listen. Serious in the sense, put aside my peculiar prejudices and idiosyncrasies and listen to what you're saying. Because the listening is the miracle. Not what shall I do with what you have said.
Not what shall I listen to,
but the act of listening.
But the act of listening itself. So we're back to ing, where the listening itself.
That requires, I mean, you're good enough to listen to me. Because you want to find out. But vast majority say, what are you talking about? I want to go and enjoy myself. So go and talk to somebody else. So to create an atmosphere, to create an ambiance, a feeling, look, life is dreadfully serious, my friend. Do listen. It's your life. Don't waste it. Do listen. To bring about a human being that will listen is the greatest importance, because we don't want to listen. It's too disturbing.
I understand. I have tried sometimes in class to make this very point, and sometimes I suggest that we should watch the animal, especially the wild animal.
Of course.
Because if it's not listening, it's likely dead.
Dead, yes, sir.
There is this extraordinary attention that it makes, and every instant of its life is a crisis.
Absolutely. You see, but...
And you know what happens? The eyes out there show in the main that they're thinking I'm talking about animal psychology.
Correct.
I'm not talking about psychology at all.
I know.
I'm talking about what is the case, which is either or, and there isn't any way to get from either to or. That's what I mean. So I think I understand you.
See, so in America, what is happening is now, as I observe it, and I may be mistaken, they're not serious. They are playing with new things, something entertaining. Go from one thing to the other, and they think this is searching.
Searching. Yes.
Searching, asking, but they get caught trapped in each one of them.
Yes.
And by the end of it, they have nothing but ashes. So it is becoming more and more difficult for human beings to be serious, to listen, to see what they are, not what they should be.
No, what is the
case. What is.
Exactly.
And that means you please do listen for 5 minutes. In this conversation, you are listening because you are interested in it. You want to find out. But the vast majority of people, they say, for God's sake, leave me alone. I have my little house, my wife, my car, my yacht, or whatever it is. For God's sake, don't change anything as long as I live.
You know, going back to what I do know something about, namely the academy, because I'm situated there in terms of day-to-day activity. I've often remarked to myself in attending conferences where papers are read that nobody's listening. It's one long monologue. And after a while you get the feeling that it really is a shocking waste of time.
Yes.
And then even to sit down and have coffee, the discussion, say, between classes usually runs on the basis of of babble. We're just talking about things that we're not genuinely interested in order to fill up space. This, however, is far more serious a matter than simply a description of what's going on.
It's a matter of, I feel, it's a matter of life and death.
Exactly.
If the house is burning, I've got to do something.
Right.
It isn't, I'm going to discuss who burnt the house,
No.
what color his hair was, whether it's black or white or purple. I want to put that fire
Right.
out.
Yeah. Or
And
if
will
such and such had not happened, the house would not be burned.
I mean, that's all.
Right. I know.
And I feel it's so urgent, because I see it in India, I see in Europe and America, everywhere I go to, this sense of slackness, sense of, despair and sense of hopeless activity that's going on. So to come back to what we were saying, relationship is the highest importance. When in that relationship there is conflict, we produce a society which will further that conflict through education, through national sovereignties, through all the rest of it that's going on in the world. So a serious man, serious in the sense who is really concerned, committed, must give his total attention to this question of relationship, freedom and knowledge.